Today I am reviewing more of your resumes. Since the last video I made, I had tons and tons and tons of resumes have been emailed to me, and I've had a good time reviewing them, but there are a lot. So I'm gonna just go over them. I'm gonna do 5 per video because it takes about 5 minutes to do each one, roughly, and I don't want the videos to get too long, so I'll probably just make a few of these and then queue them up, and we'll have like resume review Saturday. Now, I'm still taking resumes, but let me just go ahead and be a sellout here and say Tuesday is my birthday and I'm going to launch a Patreon. Actually, you can see the Patreon now if you want. And one of the Patreon supporter levels is, hey, let's sit down, let's make a resume cover letter from scratch, or we'll improve the one you want. So in the meantime, you can still send me cover letters and I'll still review them. It'll just take me longer to get to them. So if you want to do it and sit down with me, or send it to me and I'll change it and send it back, that's one of the perks. I also have a website. It's called onfocus.gg. You'll find the link to the Patreon there, or I'll put it in the description if you want to support. You guys know I want to do this full time. I really enjoy helping you guys. Seeing you guys make progress is what helps me make progress. God, it feels so awkward to do, like, please support, right? But that's my dream, to do this full time, make tutorials, make helpful videos, and just be able to help people by using my ability to code and my experience in this industry, and just meeting people and sharing their experience with you guys so that you guys are ultimately successful. So I am successful when you guys are, and that's the reason I make these videos. Since I won't do an outro for this video, I do have a Discord. Be sure to check out the Discord, links in the description. I will give you a personal welcome. Call me out in Discord. If I do not give you a personal welcome, I will tag you at whatever your name is. Welcome. I don't know, I just want to engage with you guys. So while we're on the topic of engagement, follow me on Instagram. It's literally just Joshua Fluke on Instagram, pretty much. And you can feel free to DM me there or send me some pictures. Anyways, guys, if you want to see more videos like this, hit that little subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so first up, we got Ivan from Russia. Now, I went ahead and blocked out all of his info so we can kind of do this in a more interactive way this time, rather than me just like pointing and poking around. And so let's do this. So we have Ivan. First thing I notice here is that you should put your profile up here in this space. Education's in a good spot. I really feel like you could put your contact up here somehow in that space. Education is good. And then I would take the space that you create by moving these two and then put your skills somewhere between here and here. Skills at the bottom of the page is like, you know, when a person is looking at the resume, he's like, all right, does this person even align with the job? First thing you want to see is skills. So get your skills up higher on the page. You'll also be freeing up some space on the resume. So don't feel obligated to fill up every single inch unless you just have like tons of cool stuff that you're really excited about and it really matches. Also, this was a picture. Take this off. We don't need this picture. So actually what you could do is go ahead and move up this info here to where your picture was. So I know that this looks like a mess right now, but hopefully when you watch the video, it'll make more sense. Interests are okay. I'd be careful depending on what company. If you see the vibe of the company that's like, hey, we want to get to know you, hey, this is a great spot to have. Like, keep that. Show a little bit of personality. You're using some first person here, so you should probably be careful with that alongside my. You have some action verbs, those are good. Got 3 thank you letters from clients. So what I would do here is have a link to these letters. So that would be, you know, let them read it for themselves. One thing that you are missing here is your GitHub. There is no GitHub at all. Like, so you're gonna need to add your GitHub in there. So GH. You need your GitHub in this information, and then move that information up. You don't have education on, okay, so you do have education on here, coding bootcamp, a course, and then your degree. Looks good. Yeah, I would just leave that there, maybe flip-flop your skills, but definitely take your picture off and then put your profile up there, 100%. That's about it. Okay, next one. All right, so we have Shri. I'm just gonna call you Shri and just avoid problems in trying to pronounce your name. So immediately there are a few things that I want to point out. You have your address twice. Here is your address. I know that you guys can't see it because I blurred it out before I started recording, but you have your address twice. 2 places, that's a lot of real estate on this single page. Up here you have multiple bullet points for your professional summary. We're going to need to combine and eliminate a few of these extra ones. So I'm not sure what this means. Maybe this is a culture thing. An enthusiastic fresher. Not sure what fresher is. I assume that means like you're a noob, but I don't. That's not a word that we use. So if you're applying to U.S. jobs, I would probably. I'm an enthusiastic, highly motivated student or graduate with an engineering degree. Change that. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're like, I'm a noob, but I'm highly motivated. Like, they already know that you're a noob just by looking at your work history. And if they don't, they're going to give you a test and you're going to be like, well, I'm a noob. And they're going to be like, okay, well, do you still want a shot at it? Or they're going to be like, well, all right, then that's the moment you can be like, well, hold on a second. Let me give it a shot. Let's see what happens. All right, so let's talk about the order of things. First things, we need your skills to move up. But before we can move your skills up to the top, let's talk about your skills for a second. Web programming is a very generic term, and you have it almost all the way maxed out. I'd say that's like 80% to being like a master at web programming. Programming skills also here. What does this mean? What's the difference between your programming skills and your web programming ability? I have no idea what that means. Java, that's specific. That's one technology. I understand that. But web programming and programming skills encompass like so many different frameworks and so many different languages that you need to break this out into a section like this and maybe just eliminate this white space here and here and just break them out into the things that you can do, because you have a Django-based search engine for searching data, but yet you don't mention that in your skills at all. Are you just assuming web programming for everyone includes Django? Because I do web programming and I don't work with Django. So you should rethink what you're doing here with your skills. They're not specific. Like, the person who's looking at this is going to be like, I have no idea what this means. Does that mean like the only way they're going to find out is to be able to make the connection between this web programming and projects here. Again, let's look at the projects over here. We're going to need a link for you to click on here, here, and here, also here. I can't find any way to get to these projects and see what you're all about. Let's go to the education real quick. Move the education down here to the bottom. I would, that arrow though, I would include the accomplishments. I think this is good. Necessarily, I mean, it doesn't matter really what it is, just that you have some accomplishments that you're proud of, and maybe they'll ask you about that in the interview, and then they can kind of get that culture fit going. Good communication and problem solving skills. Like this is what you see on the application to a job. This is not what you see on a resume. Like, by applying, they're assuming that you have good communication and problem solving skills. Expert in implementation of each step of project. What does that mean? What makes you an expert? Can I get some details on how you're an expert there? I would probably take that out. Passionate for web programming, have worked with several. Yeah, see, this is the one. All right, so I think we found the one. You have a whole bunch of room now because we're removing everything except this one line. I think this one line is like the best one that you should include. Everything else is just kind of like, okay. Developed a social. All right, so let's talk about grammar for a second. I know that maybe this is not native English, but this needs to be capitalized, that needs to be capitalized, same thing. And then you have a random capitalization here, not sure what's going on. Capitalize, another random one. But you have no first person, so this is all good. And then you have some good action verbs in here as well. High school diploma, computer engineering. Yep. So, all right then. I thought it was on here, but apparently it's not. We need to add your GitHub. We don't have a GitHub anywhere on here. We could either do that up here in the corner, add a GitHub and a LinkedIn up there. Or we could come over here to the personal info and add them over here. You'll have a lot more space. Once you remove this stuff I've marked in red and shrunk the page, the spacing between the pages or these sections with your education projects, accomplishments, you have a lot more room. The main thing that you really need to expand on is this web programming and programming skills. I need to see specifically what you can do. I just have no idea what this means because these fields are so wide. So really break this apart. So you'd be like Java, JavaScript, Python, Django. Like that's what I'm looking for. Not this is generic. But other than that, if you make these changes, and really flesh out what you can do, then I think you'll be all right. So thanks for sending me your resume. Good stuff. Next up, we have Mr. DeBoard. He emailed me a while back, and this is the resume. So let's talk about the style here for a second. I really like what you've done with the colors. One thing that I kind of looked at and thought about too long was this half red, half black idea here. What I would do is probably make this whole thing red and then make this line black, or vice versa. Maybe make this line red and this black. This half, half, like the first 3 letters, I guess, is what you're doing for red. Like you could still make that work. It just seems a little odd, especially because you have your whole words up here in red. That's just minor nitpicks. Another thing I noticed is that you have this quote here right next to your summary. So what I would try to do is include this quote in your summary somehow. Maybe say one quote that describes me is this by C.S. Lewis, because these are supposed to kind of describe you similarly. That's the purpose of them on the resume, at least in my opinion. I think these are trying to do the same thing, in addition to it's causing a lot of white space here. One other thing that I would do is take your skills, move your skills up right underneath your summary so that you have your skills and then projects, and they're like, oh, so he probably used this for this. So let's talk about some things I really like. I'm gonna go with green. One thing I really like is that you have your job or the app that you did, and then you have like a statement of like what you did. Exactly, like this is a summary of everything I did, and then you have some good action verbs in here. You made your own token, the DeBoard token, just to say I have one. I like that, a little bit of humor in there. It's always good. And then one thing I would like would be a link to see these directly. Now, if they're on your LinkedIn or your GitHub, that's good. But if they can get there directly, if one like speaks to them, they don't have to navigate through your entire GitHub to get there. So I would probably add some links here, similarly to what you did with, you have your icons for your LinkedIn, GitHub, email, phone up there. Do that down here. Maybe add those there and there, also there. One thing I did see when I was reading through your history here is that you have a PR number for your open source contribution. So depending on who sees this, they may or may not know right away what this means. I would say, let's back up. I would say maybe contributed PR blah blah blah, PR 499, PR 5022 to CPP Ethereum application. One thing that you need to take out here is you have some first person. So when I revamped, I rented, I implemented, I mainly. So let's talk about how you would reword these. So when I was testing out the C++ Ethereum, it bothered me how unprofessional CI menu was when interacting with the program. So I don't understand why you would tell me that as a statement of what you did to the program. I would maybe say improved CLI menu due to lack of visual optimization or something, or improved CLI menu UI UX. So that's basically what you have on the line below. Revamp the entire menu to make it more readable and understandable to new users. So honestly, you could probably just take this entire line out. This is probably a line best kept. I don't know why I went up like that. This is probably a line best kept for in the interview. Well, what did you do there? And then you would be like, well, when I was testing out the app. So that is what you would do for that one. Then we have an algorithm trading applications. I rented a server. So I would just put managed a server. Just take out yourself. You don't want to use any of that first person here. I mainly used, so you could just take out that. Just use curl. Another first person here. I'll delete that portion and then be like, take this implemented and move it here. So implemented easy to use API wrapper for the Poloniex exchange. That's it. Done. They don't need to be very long. You don't have to add fluff to it. You get your chance in the interview. If the code is good, they'll reach out. And if the phrase condition was met, maybe change this to when phrase condition was met, trade would immediately execute on Poloniex. So I get what you're doing here. You're kind of talking in third person. So this is kind of like a piece of information. This is something that, again, you would probably use in the interview. And then here, one thing I have a problem with, a definitely problem, nothing special in its own right. So you're already dismissing yourself before the interviewer can dismiss you. So remove that. just put that there, and then maybe for one of these lines put used BRC20 solidity standards to create token, something like that. So these are more pieces of information that you could remove. You want to give less information and more of like what your action steps were that you used when you were there. So you could be like, utilize IPFS data to ensure mutability transparency. And then, you know, you had it for anyone wanting to get involved. You can talk about that. Leave these kinds of quips, I guess, for talking points when you have a chance. You just want to keep it like, this is what I did, this was the code that I did. Just keep it real simple. You have good stuff here. There's no doubt about that. I just think you need to provide less of an about me page in these little projects and more of, this is what I did, this is what I used, this is what happened type deal. But everything else is fine here. So those are the changes that I would make. Hopefully this helps. Thanks, John. Good stuff. All right, so I think I have everything blocked out for Sai. He's a front-end web developer. I really like this layout. First off, let me just say that. Let's talk about some things that I like right off the bat here. We got some icons with everything that you need. It's a little bit thick, but I'll change that. So we have some icons with everything that you need to know and where you need to go. I guess a minor thing that you could change would be instead of typing the whole URL, you could just include a link. Same thing for GitHub. Same thing for this. Use the little chain icon, so you include like a link and it just takes you to the page, so they don't have to copy paste and do all that stuff. Make it as convenient. The less clicks, the better. So what are the most common, one of the best principles, I guess, in UI UX is the less clicks to get somewhere where you're trying to find information, the better. So if it's like 3 clicks, that's too long. If it's like copy, paste, or type this in, that's too many, right? That's too many actions for the user to get to that end point. UI UX design, progressive web applications, team player. So in my opinion, let's talk about your passion for a second. Let's just remove all of this stuff. By working as a web developer, generally you need to be a team player. You don't need to reiterate that. There are some jobs where you're just like solo and they expect you to do that. And then maybe you could put team player with good communication, skills adaptable to any work environment, but also productive when self-driven or autonomous or something like that. Then you could include that. But I think in general, you need to be a good team player. Technical skills up here at the top. So we're going with the 2-column layout. I like it. Technical skills up here at the top. Technologies, frameworks, tools. Instead of putting Git, I would change it to version control because you have like Mercurial, Subversion, TFS. Those are all version control, and they're really not that far from each other. Once you know Git, like baseline, then you pretty much know the other ones. I would just change that to version control. In case they're using something else, then it wouldn't be too much of a jump for you to do that. Like, what if you're using Git and only the Git UI? Then you have to use the terminal all of a sudden. You're like, well, I guess I can't use version control now. Let's talk about this little, a startup funded by 250 companies. So this is like a little description of what it is, but then you're missing it, like what you did here. I understand that it wasn't like a company that you worked at, but you're missing like the little description of everything that you've done. Maybe just like a little general overview of what you did. But I like that everything here is bulleted out. I can see exactly what you did. A lot of action verbs translated, implemented, built, optimized. Again, down here also, you have a lot of action words. Education at the bottom, fantastic. It is my personal opinion that you should just include the year that you graduate. You don't necessarily need to put that you're a student, because if you put that you're a student, they might think that you might not have time to be able to work for them because you're so encompassed in your degree. Just put the year that you expect to graduate. If it's not the current year and it's the one after or a couple years later, then obviously they know that you're going to be a current student. You don't necessarily need to put that. Or just put the year that it is right now, or no year at all. Again, if you put the year of education on your resume, it's tempting for the employer to go back and be like, well, if he got this degree here and then this other degree here, he's probably this old and wants more money. So, nope. Be careful with that. Honors awards. Graduate incentive. Yeah, this is good. You could have this. I don't necessarily know you need to explain why you got it. Just put that's how you got it. And if they ask about it, hey, that's a cool talking point. Full stack web developer present. I don't necessarily think that you need to put that you're currently learning from Linda. Just put that there. It's every day is a learning experience anyways, right? So just take off the date there. Certificates. Again, no dates needed here. No dates needed here. Projects. All right, this looks good, but we need links. Where can I find these bad boys? I want to look at their code like right now. Oh, so this is a project that's currently in progress, but I don't think that you need to put that it's currently in progress. I think if they find it, you can just be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's not complete. I'm still working on it. But you can go check my other social meetup one, and that one's complete, and I did it. This is when I did it. So remove those dates. So you got your LinkedIn, GitHub site. We've optimized your passion there. Technologies. This is just minor nitpicks now. HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, PHP, Python, Node. Why don't you put Express up there with Node? Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Visual Studio Code. I think it's probably safer to say just Adobe Suite here. That this is usually assumed, especially in the development world. They're not going to be like, well, are you an expert in After Effects? Like they're probably not going to do that. MySQL, MongoDB, Cloud, Firestore. I don't know what that is, but all right, that looks good. Soft skills, ability to work under pressure, decision making. Actually, I've never seen this before, and I think this is really good. I appreciate this because they're going to ask you questions. Probably, everyone gets the typical HR questions at some point in their career. But if you go ahead and already tell them like what you're good at, then I think it might help you answer questions. Just be prepared. If you put this on your resume, they're probably going to ask you questions. Oh, so you mentioned time management on your resume. Can you tell me about a time where you were under a strict deadline? How did you handle that? Like, be prepared to get questions like that because you have these on your resume. Volunteer experience, that's always good. You could just leave that there. I think this is in a good spot. Honestly, if you wanted to flip-flop your certificates and volunteer experience, I think that might be better now that I think about it, because you'll have certificates. It just seems more related. One thing that I am noticing right now that I should have noticed before was put your soft skills and your projects, flip-flop, put those up. So technical skills, projects, certificates, and then volunteer experience. In that order. Hopefully you follow me on that one. I guess that's it. It's all my input for this one. So thanks, Sai, for sending this in. Good stuff. All right, so we got Kelvin here. I really like this layout and this template and this color scheme, and I like you added a filter on your photo. There are some things we need to change, though. Again, this is just my personal opinion that you should never put a picture on your resume. I think it would look just fine actually without your picture, and then you'd clear up a lot of space. And then what you could do is move your About Me over to that section, and then your skills over here. So that's kind of abstract. Let me show you what I mean here. So personal skills, you could leave that on there. I guess there's space for that. What I would do first is come up here, and then I would take your projects, put them right below your About Me, and I would take you had your professional skills. So when you remove that, you would clear up some space. So then you'd have professional skills, About Me, work experience. I think that could work. That left to right kind of clockwise dynamic, that would work. Social media. These aren't really social media links, to be honest. GitHub, LinkedIn aren't really social media. No one uses LinkedIn like typical social media. We have a Twitter on here. In my personal opinion and professional opinion, don't give them access into your personal life immediately. Remove that. I don't know why it does that. Remove that link and then rename this to something else. Don't put like don't put social media. I get what you're going for though. Like I absolutely understand that you should put social media and everyone has social media, but I would save it. I wouldn't put your Twitter on there. Even if you're, everything's good to go, don't do it. You also have your phone number up here. I really like that. So this is awesome stuff. You got your email, you got your personal website, professional full stack developer. The About Me is pretty good. All the descriptions here you have there's no first person, and there's a lot of action verbs here: build, user, participate. Actually, they're present. These are present tense, so work with senior developers. develop, tailor. I mean, I guess that makes sense, even if it, because you're working there and it is present. So education, again, once you move this project up to here, your education would drop down to be the last thing by default. I'm not sure what you would rename this social media section, but include these two, don't include social media. And then your projects. So one thing we got to talk about is your projects here. You got .com, .com, and the small descriptions of them, but you don't have anything about the skills that you used or the links to them. So we need to add links here and here. And then maybe, since you'll have a bunch of space now, because you'll remove the picture, you'll have space, you can add a short description of what each one does. So maybe I'll just add some squigglies for you there. There. And there. So not only do you clean up some space, but now you have room to give little descriptions for your projects after you move them up here. And then you can move that up. And if you wanted, you can move something over. You'll have more real estate to work with, so this will make more sense to you since you're the one with the editable file. I just have a PDF. Other than that, the color scheme is good. I wish you could add photos. I wish that was a thing, but people are just so judgmental that some people say, oh, it gives them a personal connection with you. Well, what if you look like, their ex-wife or their ex-husband or their ex-girlfriend? Subconsciously, they're going to be like, yeah, no, there's no way. Like, just don't do it. It's better in person, right? Even if you do look like them and you meet them in person, your personality is probably totally different, and then you have a shot. So just avoid that, in my opinion. People do this in Europe a lot. They took pictures for my resume when I was at college. It was weird, but I would never include one just because I know how people are, and that's just how it is. Hopefully this helps you out, Kelvin. I really like this. There's a couple minor things that you should move around and rename, but really like the color scheme and the filter you used. So good stuff, Kelvin.